we are going to so we are going to look at two forms of projectile motion. The first is a motion of body projected from a height to the horizontal. This body comes to rest. As it covers horizontal distance, it also covers vertical distance at the same time. We're also going to look at a projectile motion of a body projected horizontally from an angle theta at an angle of theta. So here is projected from a height, here is projected horizontally from an angle theta. This angle theta is called the angle of projection. It's called angle of projection. Let's look at this first. Calculations in this. So if a body is projected from a height, remember that V is equal to UT plus AT square over 2. If this V is Vx in projectile motion, what mean of Vx? That is the vertical component of the motion of the velocity. What is Vy? Horizontal component of the velocity. If I have this, if here is V, here should be Vy, and here should be Vs, the horizontal component of the velocity. Here is the vertical component of the velocity. Which one changes? This one changes. This one does not change. Because this one does not change, A is 0. Does that make sense to you? Why does this one not change? Because this velocity is not affected by the gravitational force. This one changes because this velocity is affected by the gravitational force. So if this is Vx, if this velocity is the velocity along x-axis, that is horizontal component of the velocity, it will be ux, initial velocity along the x component, times t, plus a is 0 times t square over 2. Everything here becomes 0 because of the 0. So Vs is equal to us times t. So take note of that. But if it's Vy, it remains ut plus a becomes g, because the acceleration is affected by the gravitational force. So the a becomes gt square over 2. The here becomes, this u is uy when we are comparing the vertical component of the motion, because projectile motion has two components, the vertical component and horizontal component. So when we are comparing the vertical component of the velocity, it becomes ut plus gt square over 2. Does that make sense to you? This u1 means that this initial velocity is the initial velocity along y component, along the vertical component of the motion. But here, this will become 0 because no change in velocity. When there's no change in velocity, acceleration is said to be 0. So let's solve some problems on that. A ball is projected horizontally from a height of 20 meters above the ground. This body is projected horizontally, do not forget, from a height of 20 meters above the ground with initial velocity of. Whenever velocity is given in a projectile motion, know if the velocity is velocity along x component, that is horizontal velocity, or velocity along y component, that is vertical velocity. What is this velocity? This velocity is the velocity along x component. Why? Because the body is horizontally projected. So this velocity is initial horizontal velocity, not a vertical velocity. Whenever horizontal velocity is given, initial horizontal velocity is given, it means that the initial vertical velocity is 0. Take note of that. So this is initial horizontal velocity because the body is horizontally projected. So will I call it ux or uy? Is ux. Ux is 0.4 meter per second. They're asking you to calculate the horizontal distance moved by the ball before hitting the ground. So what will be the horizontal distance now? Horizontal distance is Sx. Sx is horizontal distance, is it not? Equal to ut plus at square over 2. everything here becomes zero because the projectile motion, there's no change in velocity and the acceleration is equal to zero, is it not? So Sx, as we have said earlier, is u times t, u times t. Do you know the time? We do not know the time. Do you know the initial horizontal velocity? Yes, 0.4 meter per second. How do we get our time? We can get our time if we know the height. From a height of this, formula for height is ut plus gt square over 2, is it not? So if that is so, height is what? From a height of 20, initial vertical, this one now is uy, vertical, initial vertical velocity is 0 times time we are looking for plus g is 10 times t square, because the time it takes to cover vertical distance h is the same time it takes to cover sx. So take note of that. The time is the same. So we're going to have 20 equal to 0 times t is gone, 10t square over 2, cross multiply. What do you have? 10t square equal to 2 times 20 is 40, divide by 10, divide by 10, is it not? T square is equal to 4. Square root the both sides. What is t? T is 2 seconds. So if t is 2 seconds, you're going to have that Sx is equal to, what is u? U is 0.4 times time. The time of the horizontal distance is the same time of the vertical distance, is it not? So time is 2 seconds. 0.4 times 2 is 0.8. So 0.8 meter is the horizontal distance. Okay, let's look at this one. An object is projected from the top of a cliff with a velocity of 7 meter per second and lands on the ground level at a point 56 from the base of the cliff. Object is projected from the top of a cliff. If this is a cliff, from the top is projected, it lands on the ground level. Look at the height of the cliffs. Then what I'm saying is that it lands on the ground level at a point 56 meter from the base of the cliff. Look at the base. From here to this place is 56 meter. Calculate the height of the cliff, this place, the height of the cliff. So this 56 is Sx. What is Sx? That is the horizontal distance. So the height of the cliff height is ut plus gt square over 2, is it not? So do we know our is projected from the top of a cliff with the velocity of this and land on the ground level at a point this from the base of the cliff? Calculate the height of the cliff. So we know that we don't know time here, but we know that Sx, to find the time, because time is the same, is us times time, is it not? What is Sx? 56. What is the initial velocity? Initial horizontal velocity? 7 times t. Divide by 7, divide by 7. So what is the time? The time is 8 seconds. So we now have that height will be equal to 0 times t 8 plus g 10, whether given or not. If it's not given, use 10 meter per second. If it's given, use what is given, either 10 meter per second square or 9.8 meter per second square. Times time, what is time? 8 square over 2. So what is the height of the cliff? 8 square is 64. 64 times 10 is 640. 640 divided by 2 is 320 meter.